well. But anyway, without any further ado, I'll hand over to Ty, and Ty can make the introductions. And welcome Sheryl, welcome James from Down Under, and good to hear some Aussie voices. Okay, Ty, unmute yourself. Good.
You would think of all people I would know how to do that. So welcome everyone. Thanks for coming. We're excited to have Sheryl here tonight. Just a little bit of housekeeping for Zoom. Make sure everyone's on the same page as far as how to use it and what we've got available for you. So we do have a chat box. You should be able to pull up an option on the bottom of your screen for chat. You can chat questions later on, and I believe, Sheryl, is that correct that we request to have the questions to the end of the presentation, right? Is that correct, Sheryl?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Perfect. And so feel free to put questions in the chat window as they come up. If there's something that's a clarifying question that makes sense for the immediate moment, I'll curate that, but usually most questions can be put towards the end. And you can also modify your view windows. So if you see there's a button that says view on it, usually towards the upper right of your screen, and that lets you change it from a speaker view or a gallery view. The speaker view is usually most appropriate. Once Sheryl will get into her presentation, it'll focus everything on the presentation and then usually offer a little window of her speaking. Let's see. Once we hit Q&A time, there may be an appropriate time to unmute, but otherwise I'll keep everyone muted so that we can have audio clarity across the board. And I think that is it. So tonight we have Sheryl Backhouse joining us from the future. It's Friday afternoon for Sheryl out in Australia, and Sheryl has recently been named a member of the Order of Australia, which maybe Sheryl, you can even explain a little bit more about the honor that you just received for her work in the subtropical fruit growing industry and to the community in general. She organizes the Subtropical Fruit Club of Queensland, the Queensland Bushfood Association, and the Queensland Skeptics Association. So we're very grateful to have you here tonight, Sheryl, and excited to hear more about the bush foods of Australia.
Thank you, everybody. Well, I'm wearing my Australian T-shirt. Can you see it there? I thought I better show the flag. And yes, I was awarded what's called a gong by the Australian government for services to the subtropical fruit and also community. I besides the groups that Ty mentioned, I help out in a lot of other organisations, either organising them or on committee or whatever. I'm on the committee for the Alternative Technology Association, and what seems to happen is I go along to a meeting as a visitor, and you know, they're about to sort of shut down the group, and I just can't bear to see groups closing because of lack of management, and that's where I come in. So I sort of whip them into shape and hopefully pass them along, but they sort of keep me there. So anyway, all right, so we'll start the presentation. Yes, I organise the Queensland Bushfood Association, and now it won't allow me to go down to the next slide. All right, so we did the Australian Food Plant Study Group that you can have a look at. So that is free to everybody. It is all searchable. So if you put in anything you would want to search for, it'll come up with all of the newsletters that they're in. I just touched on that. What you can look at in the website for the Subtropical Fruit Club is I record all of our guest speakers because they give out a lot of technical information and people can't remember it all. So I type it up, or I get somebody to type it up, and I edit it. It goes back to the speaker for editing, and then I put it up on the website. So if you go into the website and search for anything at all you want, you'll find it there, usually under articles or tips. So have a look at that. Now, bush tucker, also called bush food, is any food native to Australia and used as sustenance by the original inhabitants. But it can also describe any native fauna or flora used for culinary or medicinal purposes, regardless of the continent or culture. And John asked me what the difference was between bush tucker and bush food. So I called on James Hansen. So I'll get James to give his interpretation as opposed to what is on Wiki. James, are you there?
Unmute. I've unmuted. I'm happy to say that the consensus amongst the people that I've been meeting and talking to on this subject, bush food in a general sense includes any native food, but more generally, particularly relating to vegetable or vegetation. And bush tucker is more of a compromise. It takes in fauna and the additional things where people compromise the mixture by making such things as damper rather than bread, or even making bread that would not normally be considered a form of bush food or bush tucker.
Thanks, James. So Dr. Ross McKenzie says in his book, Toxicology for Australian Veterinarians, it is not safe to assume that fruits eaten by native Australian birds and mammals are safe for humans or other mammals to eat. So just because it's a native food that birds eat doesn't mean to say that you and I or other mammals can eat it. Now, I've sent Ty and John a brochure that I created on growing bush food with all the relevant information. So this is on, and they'll send it out to you and you can print it out. So the Queensland Herbarium does not use the term bush foods in any publication. So there's no specific list of bush foods here in Australia, in Queensland. And there's very little data on which nutrients can be found in which wild foods. And often researchers find that the same food will have different levels of nutrients from one region to the next, which may be because nutrient levels can be affected by environmental factors like drought, water stress, and pests. And one study in Tanzania, for example, found that levels of zinc and vitamin A in the same foods varied tenfold from one region to another. So that's very interesting, that statement. So, taxonomy and taxonomists. We'll discuss that briefly. Our different states in Australia do not automatically synchronise botanic names. Why is this so? So, callistemons are now Melaleuca, except in our southern state of Victoria. Waterhousia floribunda is now Syzygium floribundum in Queensland. Some of the Acmenas are now Syzygium, and Backhausia anisata is now Syzygium anisata in Queensland, and Anatholia. So it's very confusing. You cannot look at a book and say that this is what is so in your particular state. It's very confusing. James, would you like to add anything to that? James, unmute yourself.
Thank you. It's always contentious because there's herbaria around the world and they all have the idea that the first name to be used should be the one that should take precedence. And then within that, there are subgroups that say that particular species don't belong in a group and should be either in another group or should in fact be a subgroup or a subspecies. And that's now being thrown further into confusion, or a melting pot, if you like, by the research that's been done by Kew Gardens and in America on DNA. So a lot of this is still in a state of flux, and we can expect more of it rather than that the situation will be resolved easily and quickly.
One of the issues is that our scientists have to produce papers, and if ever you come out to Australia, I'll give you someone's interpretation of why this is so. So what does the Queensland Bushfood Association do? We promote events and authors. We set up community bushfood gardens. We educate community nurseries, and we donate seed to nurseries. We hold grafting and other workshops, and we help new members in pursuit of their dream. So that's taken many years ago. Our local council puts on a once yearly event. So I wear a couple of hats. So with our insurance and our laws here, we have to always put this in on all of our data because people sue, and the club, the study group, their affiliates, officers or members assume, we don't assume any liability for information contained in this presentation or for any adverse effects arising from the consumption of food presented. It's unfortunate. So there's my van, and that's my trolley, and my little esky for taking cuttings and keeping them cool. There I am collecting bits and pieces from one of our members. Now, when you read some books on bush food, you'll see these two terms used, edible and palatable. When it mentions edible, it really means that you need lots of sugar. It needs to be processed into something, either jam, chutneys, or whatever. You can't eat it straight off the bush or the tree. Palatable is when you can eat it more or less straight off the tree, but there's very few palatable bush foods, unfortunately. So I've tried to narrow it down because probably most of you just have small backyards and not on acreage. So we'll start off with those first. So you grow quite a lot of finger limes over there, and now with finger limes, always buy a grafted plant. Do not buy a seedling. They are very, very slow to produce, and it could be many, many years before you get fruit. So always get a grafted plant. The latest information I have is that they use swingle as a rootstock because it gives you, it's a fast growing tree. Trifoliata used to be used, but it doesn't have really good vigor. So it's much slower growing. And if you put it onto swingle, it's notorious for shooting below the graft. So just watch that. And but this is, and when you get your finger limes, what we do is we put them on a counter, and with the palm of our hand, we roll them backwards and forwards, and that will release the pearls or the caviar inside, you know. And you can either split them down the center or longitudinally. If you slit them down the center, you can just squeeze them at either ends if you've got the strength. But yeah. So we use them on seafood and in drinks, etc. So that's some of them. They freeze very well, the finger limes, and that's a few different ones that I took from various members.
Some round limes in amongst those.
Now, we're just discussing finger limes can suffer from dieback, and I addressed this many years ago, and I rang up all of the experts at the time, and there was no consensus whatsoever. So these are some of the reasons why. You'll see some that are cutting grown, and they are not suitable to put in the ground. You can keep them in pots in potting mix, but do not put a cutting grown citrus into soil. Do not foliar spray. They don't like to be overfed. Don't water when flowering. Fertilize in winter with an organic mulch. And if a branch dies, and we have the same issue here, cut it right back to good wood and seal it. George Allen is the ex-president of the Subtropical Fruit Club. He said it could be copper deficiency, but it may also be a boron deficiency. And you've got to be very, very careful when using boron, of course. So 3 grams per square metre, according to the New South Wales Department. So another person said, when you cut it right back to good wood, spray it with phosphorus acid. And other members have also used phosphorus acid with good results. So that's something you can try, but see how you go. Miller is a vine. You need to keep it under control because it really goes haywire at my place anyway. You can prune it to a shrub or train it along a trellis. Makes a nice jam and savoury sauce. At my place, the flowers are eaten by the tiny caterpillar, and unfortunately, so I've got to deal with that in the near future. But this is a very nice plant. Medium berry. Now, don't plant one, plant a dozen or maybe 2 dozen. Use it as a border. It likes an acid soil. It grows by the sand near the water's edge. Put it in the sun, it will grow into a dense bush. In the shade, it becomes more open and sprawling. Very nice edible berries. James, have you got anything to add to any of these slides?
Oh, they're all well worth having. And with the Miller one, like anything that you take from the bush, you probably want to wash it first so you don't have anything extraneous on it. And then you can literally eat it straight away, and it's sweet and fresh every time you pick one that's ripe. It's beautiful to eat straight off the bush. Yeah.
Okay. Flacourtia. Now, originally it was monoecious, but now there's a bisexual, and I got in a tray. It was found up in North Queensland, and this is a very nice fruit, Flacourtia, and it was found at an area called Shipton's Flat. You may not have it over there, and the fruit must be black before eating. Lemon myrtle. This is one of our main bush food. they make oil, they dry the leaves and make tea, used in a lot of cooking. It's a beautiful conical shaped bush, as long as it's cutting grown. This is at my place, and as you can see, the one that I bought was a seedling. And if you buy a seedling, it multi-shoots from the base, and see how all of the shoots are growing below the roots. So yeah, look, it's okay for the bush, but not for somebody's backyard. So Backhouse citriodora must be cutting grown. Cinnamon myrtle, this is used as a spice. And aniseed myrtle, a lot of them are used in teas and seasoning. Melodorum leichhartii, the zigzag vine, and the lily pillies. This is one of my favorites, the old man's saltbush. This is an ice cream I make, and male and female flowers occur on separate plants. So I can send you the recipe for this. So the sandpaper fig, it's dioecious. Any of these, just prune them to a suitable height. Don't let them get too tall. Some of these are not bush food. This was a display at a festival we attended. You can see the large bunya cone, well, small bunya cones actually there, and they're the fruit from the bunya there, the cones. Some more bush food. And we have major issues with cockatoos eating our macadamias. And macadamias are very toxic to dogs, so just be careful if you see your dog eating them. Another bush food, but it'll leave you with a black tongue. Scrambling lily is a really nice one. The green shoot there is just beautiful in a salad, and grow it in the shade. It'll be sweeter. The plum pine, Podocarpus alatus, and there it is there. So the blue fruit is used in, you can eat it straight like that, just the blue, not the other part. And it's dioecious as well. Staculia quadrifida. The nuts can be eaten raw and roasted. Warrigal Greens. Do any of you eat Warrigal Greens over there?
I think I've heard it called.
No. So they must be blanched before. Yeah, they must be blanched before eating, as it contains oxalic acid. So you put them in boiling water and let them sit for 5 minutes, and then strain. You don't use that water at all because of the acid, so tip the water out. But it's very good to have with a kangaroo stew. Diploglottis campbellii, it's not sweet, it's tangy. So these are a couple of our bunyas. You wouldn't grow them in your backyard, and you've got to be careful, because when they fall, they could kill you. So open paddock, and you can freeze them after you take the seeds out. That's the seeds in the right. So it's technically not a nut. You wouldn't call them a bunya nut. Those who've got nut allergies can eat them. So we call them the seeds of the cones. Burdekin plum, very, very large tree. It's nice tasting, but it's got very poor flesh to seed ratios. So I don't recommend it for a backyard. Wattle. Some of the wattles, this is the main one that they use commercially, Victoriae. The native violet, pretty garnish in salads. Same with violet Banksia. This is a very lovely bush, but you can see that the outer nut is quite thick, quite hard to get into. Have you tried to open them, James?
Yeah, I'm here. I haven't actually opened them, but I've heard about them, so take everybody else's advice on this one.
Yeah. It's a very beautiful shrub, just gorgeous. And the seeds, you can see, are very nice. Some of our nuts and seeds. Rubus. Now, this is really delicious, the native raspberry, but it's a weed. And a suckering multi-stem shrub. It took my husband 5 years to get rid of ours because it suckers along the ground. When it flowers, the seeds just spread in the wind. And if you really must grow it, restrict it to a large container and on a large concrete platform and train it on a trellis. So yeah, but it's very nice tasting. Okay, these are the issues that we have with some of our bush food. I've mentioned the rubus. Myrtle rust affects the Myrtaceae family. So I didn't have the Eugenia reinwardiana in my previous slides. It really is a delicious fruit, but ours was so affected by the myrtle rust. I made my husband pull it out because I didn't want it affecting all the other Myrtaceae that I'm growing. And, you know, yes, it can be controlled, and yes, eventually it might grow out, but I just wasn't willing to risk it. The rose apple, Syzygium jambos, gets affected. Eucalypts, the Hudakawa in New Zealand, Feijoa and the Rata in New Zealand. James, is there anything you want to say about that?
Well, they're continuing to do research, and there's a suggestion from that some of the plants are actually developing some sort of natural resistance or immunity.
Resistance, yes, exactly. Yeah. Now, when you read some books on bush food, they mention the beautiful Cape York lily, and you can eat the outer rhizome. But why would you destroy a beautiful looking plant in your garden like that? So I would, you know, I grow this for the flowers. I do not grow it for bush food. So yeah, it's very nice. This is John King, is one of our very knowledgeable members. And within the Bushfood Association, we have some very knowledgeable people. It's really good to see, very heartening. And he makes liqueurs and does some scallops with seafood scallops with some of his liqueurs, which is really nice. So on the Bushfood website, I've got about 300 books listed on edible plants, on bushfood plants. So have a look on the Bushfood site for the list of books. This is one of them, New Zealand. These are a couple of slides that I gave in New Zealand a while back. Now, here in Australia, we call it bush food, bush tucker. But when you Google, different countries around the world call it native food, different thing. And if you just Google edible, medicinal, forage, wild food, and there's lots of YouTube videos. So I think in America, you use the terms forage and wild food. And these are some of the websites. You have, in America, there's a wild food festival that apparently is really wonderful to visit. So they're New Zealand websites. So I do hope I've piqued your interest in native food, and thank you. And why don't you come down and see us sometimes if we ever get past COVID? So James and I live in Brisbane, and it's about 600 miles. You still talk in miles over your way, don't you? Yeah. So I got this from a card from Koala Publishing that I snuck in. So anyway, thank you.
Thanks very much, Sheryl. Gratefully appreciated.
The other thing that I should mention is grafting tape. We use buddy tape, which is a Japanese tape, and it keeps its content watertight, and the bud will grow through it. So just have a look for buddy tape, B-U-D-D-Y, and it's very elastic. It expands as the plant develops, and the bud will definitely grow through it. And you'll know when to take the tape off, even though the bud will grow through the tape. What you do is you wait until the bud starts to develop and grows out a bit, and then you cut the tape off. Yes.
We have buddy tape here.
What's that?
We have buddy tape here. I use it almost exclusively.
Oh, good. Okay.
I use it all the time.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Now, what else was I going to mention? Yeah. Now, questions and answers.
Well, I was thinking, Sheryl, that Australia is known for its nasties. Things that usually bite you or sting you or want to try and eat you. Now we've got nasties that are vegetation as well. So you can't go out there like most countries, I suppose.
Yeah, John, the other issue, even though this is a bush food talk, with people growing ordinary subtropical fruit, because that's our climate here in southeast Queensland, to produce fruit, we really need to net it, because unless you net and keep the plant to 3 meters max, the possums, the birds, the flying fox, the rats will just eat it. You won't get any fruit unless you net, really.
Yeah. And then if they don't get it, the Queensland fruit fly will get it.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Queensland is probably akin to Florida. It's a little bit different than Southern California because we don't have the humidity that you guys have got over there. We do grow mangoes and avocados and fajillas and a whole bunch of subtropical fruit.
This year we had a huge crop of mangoes, hundreds and hundreds, and the fruit piercing moth got at all of them, and they were all damaged. So after we finish cropping, I'm going to have to prune them right back to about 2.5 meters and net them.
Yeah, that's not unlike here. I don't think we have the problem with the fruit fly like it's prevalent in Australia, but we have our rats and we have our squirrels and raccoons and other things that want to take all your efforts to grow things and keep it for themselves. So, you know,
Yeah.
we have our problems. And gophers. Yes.
Now, any questions?
What's that, Sheryl?
Any questions?
Well, it's a bit hard, I think. You know, we don't know a lot about Australian
Don't know. Ask.
flora, so it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to say. Are any of these things grown commercially?
Yes and no. They are, but it's now they're aiming more to the pharmaceutical, nutraceutical, you know, that's where they're going to now. Yeah.
Right. Okay, because I remember I read a book called Dark Emu by Bruce Pascoe, and
Yes.
he was talking about you know, Australian pastoral lands before the white man came and screwed them all up. And it's very interesting how an ethnic group of people that survived or existed for 65,000 years in our continent, in Australia, were able to survive and how do I say, not manipulate, but take control of a pretty arid country and be able to survive.
Anyway, do have a look at the website for the Queensland Bushfood and also the ANSPA website. And John and Ty will send you all the information I've sent over, and I'll send you over some recipes. All the best.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Sheryl. Yeah, we do
My
have
pleasure.
a few comments here. John Valenzuela said that Queensland is probably similar to Mexico in climate. And Rick Yasayan has said that he ate bunya seeds when he was visiting a school in Redcliffe. So it was glad to see the pods and see that, you know, people are utilising it.
Yeah. James, do you have anything to add to the presentation?
Just one little thing about the bunyas that John Wrench is a mutual friend of Sheryl and mine, and as a former senior hospital pharmacist, was able to take the seeds from the bunya and extract from them their kernels and drying them to extract all the water, which he achieved by reducing them to a constant weight. As an indication that all the water had been extracted, was then able to preserve them and freeze them for 10 years, and they were still usable and quite satisfactory for use in that form after 10 years.
James, at this seed collecting workshop I attended this morning, Jay from Cambacho Community Nursery was saying that there's a couple of different types of bunya, and one of them produces a yellow seed, and which has a different taste and is much nicer. I've never heard of that before. Have you?
Oh, I think it's one of the North Queensland varieties. Glenn Leaper spoke of, Glenn Leaper, the author of Mangroves to Mountains, spoke of that, and I think he has one growing down in the Beenleigh area. But generally speaking, they're not well known or used around Brisbane.
There's apparently not me, and Jay is going to give me some seeds.
Okay, Sheryl, you were saying earlier that Roger and Shirley Meyer came over and visited a few times, and
Yes.
I think from what Charlie Chapp is saying, that Roger was very interested in kiwis at the time.
Say that again.
Roger was
Roger-
very interested in kiwi fruit.
Oh, the kiwi fruit. Yes, he was. Yes. Yeah, I think he took some back. Yeah. Yeah, I took him to the quarantine department at the airport, and he did. We now have the Kiwi Berry, but I think mine died. So I think little like bunches of grapes. Do you have the Kiwi Berry over there? It grows like bunches of grapes.
I've seen it commercially, but I don't know if I've ever seen it growing.
No, you can eat them skin and all, and they're just wonderful. So keep a lookout for them, because we can buy them at the supermarket at certain times of the year in little punnets like you would strawberries or raspberries.
So are they a native Australian fruit, or are they from New Zealand?
No, they're not. No. James, do you remember where they're from?
Chinese gooseberry.
Oh, right. Okay.
No, these are the kiwi berries, James.
Oh, sorry, I was talking about the previous one. No, the kiwi berry, I'm not familiar with.
No, can't remember. But that's worth growing. Go looking for it.
And do they need a male and female like kiwis?
No. Not. I don't believe so.
Okay. So maybe you could talk a little bit about the subtropicals. What about the mangoes that you're growing over there? It's mango season now, isn't it?
Well, one of our members is growing about 200 different varieties. So I encourage him. And yeah, it's a lot of mangoes don't fruit particularly well because we get our rain at the wrong time of the year here. But this year we had a fabulous crop. So I'm just reading the comments here. It tastes different. People like different things. You know, what I like, you know, the next person may not like. So I'm not going to recommend any of them. I already had one that I didn't like, so yeah. And Roger Meyer, I think they were here for about 18 days the last time, and we took them up country and we went to a bushfood nursery, a bushfood members place up country. Atherton almond in the US, I don't know whether you've got it over there or not. You have to ask Shirley about the kiwi berries. I don't think the kiwi berries were here when Roger was out, but you'd have to ask Shirley.
Okay. Okay.
Is it possible, do you know if there's been, if the Atherton almond has been brought to the US or is being exported as either a food or a plant?
Don't know, but it's a stunning looking bush. It really is. But you'd have to ask your botanic gardens.
I know I've seen the trees planted ornamentally here in Southern California.
Whether Quarantine has a list of seed that has been brought in, you know, maybe they know, but I really don't.
Okay. Yes,
the kiwi berries are what are called hardy berries. So they grow in a bunch. You do have a little baby, they look like grapes.
Okay. Good. All righty. Well, thanks very much, Sheryl, for giving us that intro to Australian bush tucker.
That's all right. And you can email them out that list of Australian food plant study group that I developed, that sheet.
Okay. That's
Will
great.
do.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming along.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, next time I get down under, I'll try
Yep.
and get my way up to Queensland. I got as far as Lennox Head last time, but I'll.
Yeah,
Whereabouts in Brisbane are you?
we're on the outskirts, about 3/4 of an hour northwest of Brisbane. We have 26 acres,
Okay.
and guest wing awaits you, John.
Okay, where's that, towards Ipswich or somewhere?
No, north, head north and west.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you know north?
Strathpine way.
Yeah, west of Strathpine or Aspley, do you know?
Yeah, that's Strathpine, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. If you head north on the road north of Brisbane, about half an hour and then turn west.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is a question about how cold you guys get in your area. I know you said you're
No.
subtropical.
We still wear t-shirts in winter. Our climate is getting hotter, and it's not good actually, because our bugs, our winter doesn't kill off the bugs anymore, you know. So our bugs, we really have to deal with them.
What about the bushfires? Did you have bushfires up your way?
Not where we are, but you know, if it's not flooding, it's bushfires or there's something, you know, there's it's always something.
Yeah. Drought
James,
or
James, is there anything
Yeah.
you'd like to add?
No, basically, I'm happy with everything you've said. I'd mention one thing though. One of the fruits there, Diplodocus campbellii, it's spectacularly colourful, and with sugar added to taste, it makes delightful sorbets or chilies. And I had the pleasure of giving some to a chef who works at Parliament House, and he was going to do all sorts of interesting things with it and give it to all the unsuspecting politicians who'd wonder what they got but would be delighted to eat it.
Very nice.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah.
And thank you too, James, for joining us. We appreciate both of you taking time out of your days to
That's all right.
share
And apologies
your wisdom.
for the beginning.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Cheryl,
Yeah,
I'll
we
go
did
through the
half an hour
presentation.
earlier
I was
iron
interested
things
in
out,
the
and it was working, but something happened.
Yeah, no, that's all right. No problems. But I'll go through the presentation. I was interested in the guy that was making the liquor. That seems like a good deal.
Yes, we can take you to visit John and Mary. They're about an hour north of us. So yeah.
So is anybody doing anything with Banksia nuts or Banksia seeds?
Only
Sorry.
they're growing, but you know, you can only lick the sugar off the flowers. You know, you can't eat the any of the nuts at all.
Okay. No, I thought that you might be able to grind it into powder, into flour or something like that, and
don't
use it for dampers or.
James, you can't do that, can you?
Don't even think about it.
No.
If you see the brachychitons and you want an academic exercise, then you can copy what the Aborigines did, where they used to leach it in a stream for a week, then pound it, then they would roast it, and all the pickaninnies had to stand upwind so they didn't inhale or ingest any of the toxic material that came off. And after it had been well and truly cooked, then they were able to eat it. But if you wanted to replicate that, you're talking about a week of work, and just to get one meal and it'd take a week to prepare it, it's not worth it. Do it perhaps once in a lifetime as an academic exercise, where I've seen it done once and took part in it, and I can well understand why you don't go to that trouble.
Anyway, look, I'll send you over some recipes, which you can email out to members and enjoy.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you so much, Cheryl.
Thanks very much again, Cheryl and James. Look forward to catching up with you sometime in the future.
Well, I think this COVID thing is going to go on for a long, long time,
yeah,
fortunately.
yeah, it'll mutate, and we'll get vaccinated again for the new mutation, and so it will
Yeah.
keep going. But anyway, it is what it is at the moment. So
It's what it is. Yes,
yeah.
we live in different times.
Anyway,
Thank you.
thanks again, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, and have a wonderful weekend for you guys over there.
Yes.
Have a couple of 4Xs for me.
I don't drink beer, John.
Oh no, well you've got wine. You can drink wine. So what the heck?
I can drink wine. Okay. Cheerio.
All right then. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
And
Bye-bye.
thanks everybody for your attendance tonight. Appreciate it. Take care. And
Thank you, everyone.
thanks a lot. Bye. Bye-bye.